Shocking statement. A U.S. airport became the alleged gateway for an international narcotics pipeline. And the trail starts on a single desk. Agents say they seized $72 million, 3 encrypted hard drives, and restricted passes issued to people with no airport ties. At 2:14 a.m., Operation Wolverine Shield deploys statewide. We're walking the precise raid clock, the suspicious cargo timestamps, and the digital ledger entries that investigators say laundered more than $127 million through shell vendors and nonprofits. Then we open the forensic map they call the Nexus file. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why 2:14 a.m.? Because that was the first overlap where flight schedules, maintenance shifts, and ground crew rotations left a thin seam. Long enough to lock gates before phones lit up, tight enough to stop a purge. What began as a routine audit of cargo weights by a small internal team grew into a pattern no one could ignore. Manifests with vague commodity codes, midnight weight jumps that didn't match declared contents, and camera gaps that aligned with the same late-night flights month after month across 4 years. The audit flagged a schedule, not a coincidence, and planners built a clock around it. From there, the conflict became clear. Daytime operations followed policy. The midnight chain ran on workarounds. Restricted zone badges popped up under names with no vendor contracts, no HR records, and no TSA sponsor. A quiet hangar on the east perimeter lit up only between 12:40 and 3:10 a.m., moving shrink-wrapped pallets from a secured bay to trucks contracted to small outfits with empty websites and recycled addresses. Forklifts made 2-minute transfers, scanners chirped, and then nothing. No bill of lading in the system, no exit stamp, just tires rolling toward interstate ramps. So the ops map grew teeth. 32 targets, all with synchronized clocks. The Detroit Metro Administration Wing for command and credentials. River Rouge warehouses for cold storage and repackaging. A repurposed maintenance hangar in Flint where night crews staged pallets under a radar shadow. A Grand Rapids convoy that took finished loads toward the border. Each site received a timed stack. Outer containment, inner entry, data capture, and evidence control, all staged to land before any call could ripple outward. The plan assumed leaks. The plan removed time for them to matter. Insertion matched terrain. Industrial doors at River Rouge got explosive breaching on reinforced steel, fast and loud by design to keep hands off shredders and drains. Admin corridors at the airport opened with silent keycard entries copied weeks earlier, then masked with brief door alarms tied to scheduled maintenance. On the aprons, counter-drone teams stood by with RF defeat kits to neutralize any quadcopters hovering near pallet lanes, and they used spectrum scans to flag jammers before the first unit crossed the line. At 4 a.m., the interior sweep hit the director's suite. The desk held cash and banker's wraps stacked in even rows. 3 encrypted drives sat behind binders on the middle shelf, and a 4th slot showed dust rings where a case had been. A black ledger binder labeled as consulting invoices carried page tabs for windows, passes, and vendors, each tied to dates that matched the flight anomalies. The room smelled like solvent and fresh toner. The shred bin was empty. The logistics thread tied it together. 46 midnight flights carried vague manifests that listed non-specific hardware and perishables at weights that drifted just below audit triggers. Routing codes matched corridors used by CJNG air traffic. Pallets left secure storage under escort, turned past camera nodes that went dark on a repeating schedule, and loaded onto trucks registered to fronts in Detroit, Ann Arbor, Flint, and Grand Rapids. One pallet label showed a supplier name with no tax record. Another carried a QR that redirected to a dead nonprofit. Friction showed up in the intercepts. An inspector wanted a larger cut. The messages doubled after a missed payout. Around the same window, someone attempted a camera loop during a pallet handoff, and drone jamming spiked near the Flint hangar before the counter-drone team burned it down with a targeted RF sweep. The sequence landed clean. 2:14 a.m. green light, 3:07 a.m. perimeters locked, 3:52 a.m. cargo aprons frozen, 4 a.m. admin breach, 4:11 a.m. cache and drives recovered. Arrests rolled from 4:23 through 5:10 a.m., site by site, before first shift. And yet those drives raised a harder question. What mesh could make flights, cash, and badge holders move like one switchable grid? Nexus sounded like a vanity folder until the first directory opened and listed roles instead of files. It sat tucked behind decoys and scrubbed dates, and it read like a control panel for people, doors, and clocks. The promise wasn't hype. It mapped who made gates open on command, and when a badge needed to be live for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The drives that held it were built to waste time. Each carried layered partitions that mounted clean, then flipped to a second volume only when a specific sequence of files had been clicked. The top layer showed flight training PDFs, turbine diagrams, and policy memos. Behind that sat a concealed project tree that only unlocked after agents fed in a passphrase pulled from a note in the desk margin. 3 airport codes, a date, and a weight. When the tree appeared, folder names switched from plane parts to calendar blocks and initials. Those consulting invoices on paper matched a directory of benign spreadsheets. But the cells hid formulas that called out to embedded tabs. Transaction IDs rode through maintenance suppliers with small parts, orders that never triggered bulk alerts. Nonprofits in Ann Arbor and Grand Rapids logged program grants on the same days. Trucks rolled, with rounded amounts that mirrored pallet counts. Notes in the margin fields carried vendor codes that didn't exist in any procurement system. The staff grid sat at the heart. 48 worker profiles stacked by access tier and shift pattern. Each profile showed a pay schedule, with bumps tied to successful windows and a flag for recruitment or coercion. Some had notes about debt, immigration holds, or medical bills. Badges in those profiles linked to restricted zone entry logs down to the minute, and the entries synced to camera blackout intervals. The grid even tracked who could pull a maintenance override to excuse a door alarm. A routing map rendered next. Detroit acted as the feeder. Arrows stepped through pallet lanes to highway nodes, then up to Toronto, Montreal, and Ottawa. Markers matched blackout windows on the apron and the handoff times to the drivers. Weight ranges sat next to each lane, set to stay under random inspection thresholds at the bridges. When a flight slipped by 2 hours, the map showed an alternate route with a note. Shift lane to GR, hold 1 cycle. Control messages lived in a thread labeled Ops. They referenced delivery windows, weight targets, and the slack allowed before a missed bonus. When the inspector who wanted a bigger cut pressed again, the tone changed and the schedule tightened. A name appeared more than the rest. Elvia Hero, credited as the logistics coordinator. Her notes set cadence, assigned relief when a handler flagged, and marked discipline when pallets missed targets. Breadcrumbs stitched the directory to the floor. Manifests carried checksums that matched the hidden ledgers. Storage timestamps pulled from geotagged cameras put the same boxes in the same bay during every blackout. Phone pings landed key movers at cargo doors inside those gaps. Each match pushed the directory from theory to proof. One thread stood out. Adrian Markham appeared in surveillance clips near pallet staging. Notes pinned him as a junior operator, working night logistics and handing off drivers to relay points. His badge movements mirrored the grid, and his payments posted 1 day after each window. By the time analysts finished, the shape was clear. The folder functioned like an insider operating system. 48 compromised staff created blind spots, shifted pallets, and cleared trucks on a clock. The linked ledgers tracked $127 million through fronts, while 4.3 tons moved through the corridor without setting off routine flags. Those entries didn't sit on a shelf. They triggered suspensions, arrests, and a rapid push to harden credentialing, audit cargo lanes, and close the seams that let a laptop folder run a live airport. Agents treated the airport like a live network, not a building. Doors, cameras, badge pings, and pallet lanes all synced to a digital command file. That mindset cracked it open. A nationwide directive now orders aggressive corruption screenings for aviation personnel, signaling sustained concern about insider threats and the lessons drawn from Michigan. Watch lists and walls won't hold if access is for sale. Get involved where you live. Attend airport authority meetings. Read TSA Inspector General reports, and engage public oversight boards to press for transparent audits of cargo ops and credentialing. Next, we test how fast a Nexus-style lattice could regrow under today's oversight.